Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I can already feel the room temperature going up a little bit with all the bodies out in the audience. Appreciate that. This is a time and place for City Council meeting. It is Monday, February 3rd, 2020. We'll start the meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum. Armstrong.
Lehman, Drury, Evans, Drew. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. And now, if we have Pastor Scott Wiley in the audience, we would have our invocation from Pastor Wiley, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you'll bow your head with me, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunities that we have individually and corporately to live in this great community, to live in this great country of freedom. We thank you, Father, and pray specifically for our mayor, Steve Allender, and for our city council members. We pray for your guidance and direction upon each and every one of them, Darla Drew and Bill Evans and Becky Drury, Lance Lehman, Chad Lewis, Laura Armstrong, Greg Stroman. We pray, Father, for your guidance and direction on Lisa Modrick and Richie Nordstrom. We thank you, Father, for our service personnel, our police force, our Rapid City firefighters, our medical personnel, paramedics. We thank you for our schools, our administrators and teachers, our students. And we pray for your blessing upon all of them, especially upon citizens of Rapid City. We pray for your direction tonight. We pray that there would be a spirit of community and unity, wanting the best for all of these good people of Rapid City. We pray for your direction, and we pray with thankful hearts for your blessings. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And now it's time to adopt the agenda. This is a time when the council members may adopt the agenda as written or may make certain alterations to it. Would there be a motion from the council?
So moved.
Motion from Armstrong and a second from Drury to adopt the agenda. All in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now on to general public comment. And this is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. So we have two general public comment forms, and all the rest of you are here for, most of you are here for item 39, which will be just a little bit further down the agenda, but not long from now. So the first speaker request we have is from Claire Hoff and her grandmother, Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor and fellow council members. I received a call Thursday night from my granddaughter, Claire, and she asked me if I would do something about the plastic bags that fly, because there's too many of them, and they harm animals. Then when she came to my house Friday night, she wrote down exactly what she wanted to share tonight. Rapid City should not be a place where trash goes around the city, because that's when animals are not healthy. She gave me an example on the phone about how far plastic bags can travel, and that sometimes animals ingest them and then they die. So her solution, Mayor, was to have the mayor tell everybody to not litter. That is her request. Do you have anything else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Claire, you know, we're on YouTube right now, and there are millions of people who watch YouTube. So I'm going to tell everyone out there in Rapid City to be careful not to litter, because littering hurts the animals and it makes our town kind of ugly, doesn't it, Claire? Okay, and I'll continue to tell them that, okay? And thank you very much for bringing this up. Okay?
Thank you.
And our next speaker request, excuse me for if I don't get your name correct, but I believe it is Kleins. And sir, when you get to the microphone, if you would confirm your address here, and then go ahead and everyone at public speak, everyone with the who submitted a speaking form tonight will get 3 minutes to address the council. So go ahead, sir.
Hi, Jerry Klein, 1218 Clover Ridge Court, Rapid City. I'll just be a few seconds, really. Me and my neighbors just have one complaint, and that's a city that, or we assume it's a city, that plows the streets. We ended up with more than 3 foot of snow on the sidewalk. Overnight, it turned to solid ice, and it's very difficult to remove. You know, so we appreciate it. Something could be done about that. That's all I have, really.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's it for our general public comment items. And moving on to non-public hearing items. This is items 1 through 39, and public comment will be open on items 1 through 35. There are no speaker requests on items 1 through 35. So we'll move to the consent items 1 through 35. And would the council like to remove any of these items separately or handle all of them at once? We'll go to Becky Drury.
I apologize, Mayor. If I could just have a quick point of privilege, please.
Yes.
I messed up Wednesday at the Legal and Finance. I knew exactly how I was going to vote, but I did not verbalize my vote. So it all came across on the item dealing with the mining and the water that it was, everyone agreed, but I really meant to vote no. I did go to the city attorney and ask if I could have the minutes changed. I apologize for any confusion I caused, but I think it was maybe clear during my comments that I was a no vote, and I did not want it to go on to the consent calendar either. So I apologize to my fellow council members. I confused the media, I confused the recorder, I confused everybody. So at least was confused everyone, not just one person. I was consistent, so I would like to apologize. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And back to the consent. Go ahead, Lisa Modrick.
I just want to say how much I appreciate that Councilwoman Drury has made that statement valid, and I know when I read the Robert's Rules of Order, there's actually an order that happens, and that's that you take it to council before you, or to your committee before you adjourn, and then it can be redone instead of coming out of adjournment. So there could be a parliamentary procedure that we've missed, and we should actually have that reinformed to us so that we know. Otherwise, I'm afraid it could start a precedent, and it could happen quite regularly. So I would hope that our attorney will give us the full value of that so that we don't have that happen again, and accidents do happen, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, and now Darla Drew. Okay, we're back to consent now, and we're asking the council if they want to remove any of the items for individual consideration.
Okay.
And we'll go to Darla Drew.
All right. Item 31, please.
Any other items to remove from consent? If not, may we have a motion from the council?
Second.
Motion to approve the balance of the consent items by Lewis, second by Armstrong. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to item 31 now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 31 is
Yeah.
to approve the Rapid City Youth Council bylaws. Go ahead, Darla Drew.
You know, I read through these bylaws, and I was really impressed with what our youth city council came up with. And Mayor, if I could please ask Laura Armstrong a question.
Okay.
Ms. Armstrong, how did the city youth council arrive at these bylaws, and did they have some kind of a model they were following? And I think you were in on the meeting, so I just want to know how they arrived at these laws.
Actually, Lance Lehman is taking the lead on this, so hate to drag him in, but I think your questions might be better directed at Mr. Lehman.
Okay, I'll redirect to Lance Lehman, please.
There was a gentleman with the school district named Sean Binder that's done this for other municipalities, and he was willing to help us build our youth city council.
Well, if anybody has any reason to look at those or even follow the youth city council, it's very impressive, and I think what we've done here is a really great way to get young people involved. Tonight's meeting certainly says that people are involved, but I think we need to get the youth involved at their young age and get them ready to be participants in city council and city governance. So I want to thank Laura and Lance for leading this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if we could use a motion now on this item.
Second.
Motion to approve Lehman, second by Drury, and we'll go to Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to follow up that the next city council, the next youth city council meeting will be Tuesday at 6:30, and they will be discussing the bylaws as well. So, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item 31. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And that takes us through consent. And now on to items, non-consent items 36 through 39. We'll open the public comment period here. We have one speaker request for item 37 from Janelle Fink.
Good evening, Mayor Allender and council members. My name is Janelle Fink. I'm with Fisk Land Surveying, and I am here on behalf of developer Mike Gould. Trying to get my camera to come on. There we go. Thank you very much. Item 37 is a request before you to waive the pavement requirement for a proposed subdivision called Darlington Estates, which is located about 2.5 miles southeast of Rapid City off of Old Folsom Road. The property is outside the city limits, but within the 3-mile platting jurisdiction of the city of Rapid City. Oh, oops. Okay, thank you, sorry. The property is within the 3-mile jurisdiction, but close to the edge of that. So the platting of the property and the development of the roads is regulated or governed by city ordinances. Typically, that would involve streets that have paving, curb and gutter, sidewalk, normal development. Now, this is a more rural characteristic development. It's all of the lots will be 3 acres or larger. And it's in kind of a more rural area, kind of a rolling prairie type of topography. And the owner would like to waive the pavement requirement at this time, and we use the term defer in there because it's his intent to form a road district that would ultimately assume the responsibilities for the ongoing maintenance and the actual asphalt pavement of the road. So make no mistake, the developer actually constructs the roads, does the grading, the ditches, creates the gravel surface, and he's responsible for all those other items. He's responsible for his own water system, his community water system. There are no services provided in this area, nor will there be. This will not be part of the city when this property is platted. There's no water service provided, no sewer service provided by the city, no road maintenance, no refuse service, no typical services. This will be a county development once this is platted. The road district will alleviate the burden from the actual county for maintaining the road and place that upon the landowners themselves. And the actual developer will be the primary carrier of that burden until the lots are sold out. So if he creates a road district, he's the primary contributor to that until his lots are sold. And this doesn't create a burden on the city in terms of maintenance. It's totally the responsibility of the road district. And we look at it similarly to a water system that they would do, their community water system, where he constructs that, then they establish an organization that collects fees and is responsible for the ongoing maintenance. This request comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Public Works Committee, and we would be available to answer any questions that you might have, but we request respectfully that you support the waiving of the pavement for Darlington Estates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we have another speaker request on item 38 from Dane Boomsma.
Dane Boomsma of 550 North Fish Street. The sidewalk variance request is not a cost-driven, not a functionality as far as being able to put the sidewalk in. The development is along Avenue A, which abuts Sweetbriar Drive, which is a county roadway, which is a rural section of the old Rapid Valley. No curb gutter, ditches for drainage. We've built Avenue A, constructed Avenue A, with the exception of the sidewalk, and it was actually recently, towards the end of this project, when we're getting ready to do it, it was actually the city inspector that came to us and said, it does not make any sense for you guys to put the section of sidewalk along Sweetbriar because of the rural section with the ditch, with the outlet structures for the retention pond. We have a couple of different drainage pipes that we have to go over top of. If we put this sidewalk in, the sidewalk will literally come to a dead end, which is a bush on the neighbor's yard, and there's probably a 3.5 foot drop, it'll be a slope, off the end of the sidewalk. Not a lot of street lights out in the valley. So common sense says this sidewalk does not make sense. If at some point that street were to be improved to a urban section of street, the sidewalk we would put in would get tore out anyways because ditchways would have to go away, storm sewer put in, etc. This abuts a drainage pond, which the north side of it, which is along Avenue A, we are putting the sidewalk in. We are not asking for not putting that section in. This is only the part that's on Sweetbriar, which Sweetbriar does not have any sidewalk either side of it, up and down it. And I repeat, it's got a ditch section of street for drainage. So we're going to go to the corner of Sweetbriar and Avenue A, if we were granted this, put the handicap ramp in the corner as if we always would. Just the section going south we would not put in. The grade work's been done. We can put the sidewalk in. The length of sidewalk is not significant when we talk cost. This is not cost driven. This is not a factor of not being able to put it in. We can put it in. It just does not make sense for this section of sidewalk to go in at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And now on to item 39. And I'm going to take a minute here and preface this next item of public comment by saying we have 31 speaker request forms for item 39, and if everyone uses their 3 minutes, that'll be 90 minutes of public speaking on this particular item. For a resolution from the city that will not affect the outcome of the exploratory drilling. I think that's been made clear. So I want to cite something from the Rapid City Council Policies and Procedures Manual 2-7, the public address to council. Any individual or group who wishes to address the council shall make a request to be on the agenda on forms provided. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes per individual with a maximum of 10 minutes per side, pro and con, unless otherwise ordered by the council by a majority vote. The council retains the right to determine not to hear public testimony and may designate the specified times on the agenda for public input. So looking at a 90-minute public speaking period on one item before we get on with city business, I'd like to ask the city council what their wishes would be on how to handle 31 speaking requests. Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm an advocate for the public, for the people having the right to speak before their council. The 90-minute calculation has been done before in council meetings, and it has a value to it. I know that you usually put a criteria in there if somebody has spoken about the same thing before the other, that if they can speak on something that's an added value to it, that could be helpful for the council. Perhaps another way, in order to reduce the 90 minutes, but allow all of those that have worked to come to this council and to create their statement of support or of not supporting the resolution, perhaps a 1 minute over 3 minute. Maybe there's something that we can meet in the middle on so that the people's rights are coming before us. Otherwise, I'm not sure how you can get down on that many in the list unless you're going to draw straws. So I believe in the people having a voice. I don't think that we have the right to take that voice away, but perhaps you can reorganize it so that it is fair to everyone. Thank you.
Laura Armstrong.
I want to thank everybody for showing up and coming to speak or at least participate and being engaged with this issue. I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I almost want to put it out to the public to see what they would prefer. I'd almost like to see almost a show of hands who is against this, have them stand, and then who's for it, and get a feel for that, and maybe go that way. My 2 cents. Thank you.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess we have policies and procedures written up for a reason. Obviously, we would like to have input as much as we possibly can, but we also have to go with our standard. We do this for a reason, so we can conduct the city's business as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I don't think that it's going to influence us to one way or the other to have multiple people speak. Obviously, people need to have their voices heard, but I think we've heard a lot at the last public meeting and via email. I have a pretty good idea where most people stand in this, and I don't see the benefit of having, spend an hour and a half here listening to the same thing over and over again. I think we're all going to kind of tune out people after a while. It's just a natural thing to do. You don't mean to do it, but I pretty much can understand that most people want to protect the water. I've gotten that message pretty loud and clear lately, so I just don't think it's going to benefit us one way or the other, but we'll go with what everybody says. But as far as asking the public what they want to do, that's what we're here for. We got to make that decision ourselves.
Okay, but whatever we do, let's don't debate how we should go about this for an hour before we kick it off. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just add into the conversation that Alderwoman Becky Drury conducted the Legal and Finance Committee meeting very well. And her procedure, how she conducted it, it went well. And one of the other considerations to take into fact that if the council chooses to hear all the voices is what helped expedite the timing of this is to have the people get up and stand up ready for the next person to speak. So if you call up the first person to come to the podium to speak, have the second person in line so that we have that little bit of minor delay removed. Thank you.
Any other advice from the council? Darla Drew?
Thank you. I was at the Legal and Finance meeting. I heard from 15 people at that particular meeting, and I heard a lot of great comments from everyone. I've also received over 20 emails on this subject supporting the resolution. So in light of expediting this issue, I think we understand how the people in this room, and there are a lot of you, feel about this, and so I could support the 10-minute for each side.
Joel Landine, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to be clear, while you can discuss what you would like to see in the absence of a motion suspending the rules are going to be 3 minutes per speaker, 10 minutes per side, unless there is a specific motion to suspend that rule. And then you should identify how you're suspending it, if you're going to limit speakers and allow more time pro and con, or allow 3 minutes for everyone and unlimited, or however you want to do it. But you'll need a specific motion, otherwise it will be the 10 minutes pro and con will be the rule.
Okay, and I would recommend too, to whoever is willing to make a motion, that it be so many minutes pro and con, because there are both sides out here in the audience tonight. So does anyone on the council have a motion to do something different, or are we going to go ahead with these speaker request forms as per usual? I mean, we don't have a motion to suspend these rules. John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules, and then I'd like to make the motion, or it'd be a second motion, I believe, Joel, is that how we have to do it? A second motion to limit each side to 10 minutes.
Okay, well, just to be clear, that's a departure from how we normally do it, so I think the motion is appropriate. And so we've got a motion and a second by Lisa Modrick to
suspend the rules.
The rules, and
then
10 minutes per side.
Per side.
On this item, correct?
Correct.
Both.
And how many speakers do we have on the con side, and how many do we have on the pro side, do you know?
I can't tell that, because it's, you just have to answer yes or no, and I think some people have answered yes, they're for the agenda item, for approving the resolution, and some have said no, they're against the resolution, but also no, they're against mining. So I'm not 100% sure.
Do you want to go through their names?
Well, one of the reasons I was saying that is because if one side has less than the other, which I imagine it's the con side, maybe we could ask them to speak first, and then the other side can go out and maybe huddle together and figure out who they want to have speak for them.
Okay.
That's just a recommendation.
All right. All in favor of 10 minutes per side, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Everyone understand?
I drove 3 hours to be here to voice my concerns on this in the weather.
Everyone understand that this is nothing, sir? Everyone understand this is nothing personal, but this is a trying to expedite this to save on a couple of hours of time here tonight. So I would ask of all of these speaker request forms for you to understand that the timer will start with 10 minutes, and we'll let you know how you're doing on this. If you want to file up one by one and speak for 30 seconds or 15 seconds or a minute, I think it's up to you to do that. But we'll put 10 minutes on the timer, and we'll call up first the proponents of the resolution, item 39, those in favor of passing the resolution tonight, and we'll do that for 10 minutes. So
you need to give us time to get organized if you're going to say that. You just change it first.
should give us time to step outside and huddle and figure out who's going to.
Okay, you folks can step outside if that's what you want to do and decide who's going to speak. Meanwhile, is Quinn Neff here? And are you a opponent of the resolution? Okay, approach the microphone. Those opponents who filled out a speaker request tonight also step over to the podium and get ready for your turn. The others of you can arrange yourselves in a way that seems most appropriate for the opponents. Yeah.
I'm ready to say. No. I just need a couple of minutes. But they need to see. I'm going to I need like 30 seconds to a minute. Yeah. No, that's okay. We'll be here.
You guys ready?
Quinn, kick it off. Your 10-minute timer is running, everyone, so we're off and running with Quinn Neff.
Mayor, council members, my name's Quinn Neff. I live in Keystone. I grew up in Hill City, graduated from the South Dakota School of Mines, and worked hard to have a job in the Black Hills in the mineral industries. I live in Keystone, where we've had on and off exploration drilling since the 1970s, and I was disappointed to see the Legal and Finance Committee pass a resolution with such swiftness and no notification to anybody that it affected. And I think by limiting our time here tonight, the one time we show up when we're aware, we have quite a volume of speakers. So 10 minutes isn't going to cover it, but in Legal and Finance, everybody that was there got the opportunity to speak. So I'd just like to make that point, because I'm going to shorten mine up so others can speak. And 3 points: timing, fairness, and facts. And the timing of this, let alone if the city should even take a position on this issue, the timing at a minimum is premature when this project hasn't even gone through the Forest Service EA process to analyze any potential effects to water, plants, road use, all that stuff. It hasn't even started. The facts that were presented in Legal Finance were misrepresentations of the mining industry, and I hope today you'll hear some facts from some of the School of Mines faculty, students, and others in the industry. In fairness, after watching that meeting, it seemed obvious that members of the Black Hills Clean Water Alliance have been in contact with a few council members, and it's disappointing to see those council members not contact people on the other side. So I'd just like to make that point of fairness. So we're short on time, so I'll let others speak.
Okay, please approach the microphone, state your name, please.
Andrea Bricky. I am the Associate Professor and the Assistant Department Head for the Mining, Engineering, and Management Department at South Dakota School of Mines. I am also a licensed professional engineer in South Dakota. I have numerous qualifications as far as being a mining engineer, and I'm probably not what most people in the room expect to see of a miner. I've been working, or I started work in the industry in 1995, right? You didn't expect me to be a miner, did you? I want to tell you a little bit, I want to give you a thought question, okay? When you go to the doctor, do you expect your doctor to use the most recent science and technology to heal you? You do. Well, I don't know why we look at the mining industry as if it's still 100 years old. Did you know that we talk about that mining is basically leading a lot of the technology that you're hearing about today? You know of self-driving cars? Google, Apple, Uber. Well, the mining industry has been doing that since 1990. They're learning from us. And we've logged more autonomous hours than Google, Apple, and Uber combined. You know, what I really want to say to the council is please do your due diligence. We have experts in groundwater, geology, surface water, mining at the School of Mines, just a little ways down the way here. We're right here. We're happy to answer your questions. We invite you to come and to do the due diligence that should be done before you make important decisions like this. Thank you.
Okay, next, state your name, please.
Yeah. Hey, Jay Nopla, 4509 Jewel Court, Ward 1. Similar story. Hey, I'll try to make it quick. I think it's important that we all think about, kind of following on that benediction earlier, hey? What do we all have in common here? Now, I think everyone, yes, everyone here wants to have a strong community, and they want to protect their environment. That is not the debate. That's not the debate here. This is some moderation and temperance versus extremism. I'm asking for the city council to recognize that and practice a little bit of moderation in their voting. Thank you.
I'm Crystal Hawking, 219 42nd Street. And I just wanted to say that I'm a registered professional engineer in South Dakota and a groundwater expert in Black Hills hydrogeology. And I am concerned about the drinking water in this city as much as anyone. And so I think looking at just one industry or one activity, such as drilling exploration, is extremely short-sighted to the council. And if you're concerned about protecting our drinking water supplies, you should amend the resolution to consider other items that influence our groundwater quality. Items such as salting our roads should be abolished. Items such as installing new private water wells that would have the same impact as this exploration drilling. Items such as gas stations within the watershed, septic tanks, new or proposed. Roads, ATVs that might fall into Sheridan Lake or Pactola and contaminate our water supply. So please consider these other items if you're going to consider impacts for exploration drilling.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Minich. I did email you earlier today. I hope you take some time to look at that, so I'll keep this brief. I have a PhD in geological engineering from the Colorado School of Mines and a master's in undergrad from the South Dakota School of Mines. I am an expert in Black Hills hydrogeology, groundwater, the geology in general in the area. And I live here in Rapid City at 4614 West Main Street. I have 3 kids. I'm very concerned about the water in Rapid City. I love Rapid City and the Black Hills. I would do anything to protect the area, and I want to protect it for my kids in the future. But saying that, this drilling exploration has no potential to affect negatively our water here in Rapid City or near the area. And I understand that, you know, this could lead to future mining, right? I mean, and that's the big concern too. It's not just this exploration program, it's what may come after this. Well, there's rules and regulations in place. We have those for a reason. We have the Safe Clean Water Acts, and we have the Mining Acts and everything that's been implemented. All that is being taken care of. They have to go through this process. They have to be able to prove that they will not harm our water, and they have to design the extraction and whatever that might happen in the future so it does not harm our water. Or they can't mine. It just won't go through. So leave it to the professionals, leave it to the people that have those jobs to make those decisions. They're there for a purpose.
My name is Mark Bowron, and I am an instructor and the hall professor in the mining department at the South Dakota School of Mines. My specialty is engineering and economics. Frankly, I was shocked at how rapidly a vocal minority can sway public opinion with their unscientific and fear-mongering narrative regarding the proposed drilling program. The Forest Service process is intended to be a fact-finding process, and it seems as a rush to judgment to pass a resolution that preempts that. In short, all mining is not bad. Mining contributes to employment, taxes, and economic benefits of the community. Mining is necessary for our quality of life and our standard of living. South Dakota has a severance tax which imposes additional taxes on gold production. And in short, mining technology has come a long way. The state constitution even mandates that mining be taught. It's just as relevant then as it is today. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Larry Mann. I'm president of Mann Strategies, Inc. I've been retained by F3 Gold in the area of government and public affairs. I think to keep it brief, I have asked that some documents be circulated. Please read those. They are full of a lot of information that I think will explain the position of the principals of F3. Rob Bergman and Brian Lentz, they would love to have been here. They're out of Minneapolis. One of them's in Minneapolis, the other one's in Tucson. They have consulting projects all across North America, and they come to the state on a regular basis. But keep in mind, once it goes to this environmental assessment, the Forest Service and the company agree on a consultant, which is Bar Engineering, and once that is done, the Forest Service directs Bar, but we pay them. But other than that, we have to kind of keep our hands off and let them do their work. So they're not here on a regular basis. But I can tell you this, and as an offering, they would love sometime to give you a presentation, a short presentation in person. So I'd invite you to take a look at the materials I handed and look at their website. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Darcy Baker. My address is 2201 Arroyo Drive here in Rapid City. And everybody else has pretty well stole the wind out of my sails already. But at this point, I'd like to say that a symbolic non-binding resolution based on emotion, misinformation, or a complete lack of information is disingenuous at best. And approval of this resolution excuse me, would probably be considered government overreach by the city in all regards. If Rapid City is truly serious about protecting water, the city of Rapid City needs to propose and draft some ordinances that will do everything it can to protect that water. No new construction in any FEMA flood zone A designated area, and also special water protection assessment for any existing homes, septic systems, wells that are located within a certain distance of every single FEMA flood zone A designated area.
Thank you, and that will wrap up our 10 minutes for the opponents of the resolution. Now for the proponents, same thing in case you were out of the room. State your name first, line up tight so that you can get as many folks in 10 minutes. And we'll start now with Dr. Lilies Jarding.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm attempting to get your equipment going here, but I haven't been able to. The reason I would like to do that is I'd like to show you a map that shows where the claims are that the two companies have who have major amounts of claims in the Rapid Creek watershed. And there's quite an extensive amount of them. That it all flows down into Lake Pactola, which is our drinking water supply. There we go. The yellow is the claims from Mineral Mountain Resource. The red is the claims from F3 Gold. Lake Pactola is right here. And so this is the issue that we're looking at. It's not just exploration. It's a lot of claims in our direct watershed, which feeds all three of our sources of water in the city, and which is going to lead to mining if the companies who are here have their way. Mining is where the money is. For 40 years that I know of, the mining business and its supporters have been saying that we have new technology, this time it'll be okay, there won't be accidents, there won't be license violations, but those things keep happening. And companies also keep going bankrupt and leaving, as we've experienced here with one of our two Superfund sites that are old gold mines. Rapid Creek above the city is pristine and appropriate for all uses, according to the DENR, including immersion swimming. So we're not just talking about exploration. The other thing that I've found out is that F3 Gold says that their project has nothing to do with Ellsworth Air Force Base. They say that's just media speculation. They must not have asked anyone or done their research as I did. According to the City Public Works, and according to an old rancher who saw the pipe go in, Ellsworth gets its water from Rapid City, making this also a national security issue. So we wonder what else F3 has missed in their research. I'm going to turn it over to the next person. Thank you much for your time, and we appreciate being here this evening.
Thank you. Sir?
Hello, dear members of the Rapid City Council and Mayor. My name is Rick Bell. I live at 1206 Clark Street in Rapid City. I too am a South Dakota registered professional engineer, and I've also been an environmental engineer who's been involved in doing remediation and cleanup projects for a variety of companies as both a consultant and as a corporate engineer for more than 35 years. I'm here today to request that you do pass this resolution. The effect of the city going on record as being opposed to gold mining exploration in this part of the Black Hills, in the area that's upstream of the city's water supply. I'm not opposed to mining everywhere. I'm just opposed to it occurring here at this particular location in the area of Rapid Creek and all around the Pactola Reservoir. Now you could say this is only exploration, not actual mining, so why should we oppose it? The problem is these companies know that gold exists here. So once they find it in sufficient quantities to be economical, these firms will sell out to large mining companies and will be off to the races with no local control. We know from experience that gold mining wrecks the environment. Tons of rock need to be removed, no matter whether it's done below ground or in open pits, and then this rock is crushed and subject to leaching processes with toxic cyanide, which only results in yielding a few ounces of gold. How much damage to our precious Black Hills will result? And where will all those waste piles be going? And there's also the issue of acid mine drainage, and I'll just show you one picture briefly of the this is the Gold King mine in Colorado in 2015. Can you imagine if this were to happen in Rapid Creek? So I believe it's not a matter of if, but when an accident like this should occur, and it would create huge hazards for our drinking water here. In conclusion, since a gold mine in this area would be so devastating, it would only be logical to be in favor of not even starting with gold exploration. So please pass this resolution.
My name's Justin Harriman. I'm in Ward 1, 2717 Eden Lane. I'm actually the founder of the Protect Pactola website, and my points are very straightforward. Basically, I am not a blanket opponent of mining. I'm a blanket opponent of mining in this watershed due to the pure economic value. Exploration will lead to mining. We don't know what kind of gold, we don't know what kind of concentrations of valuable rare earth minerals are in this location. We don't need to know those facts, because the reality is our economy depends upon this water. We need tourism, we need agriculture, we need our residents to be able to drink clean water. And if mining does occur, it's not a matter of if an accident occurs, it's a matter of when. If you look at the DENR website, the fact of the matter is there has not been a single gold mining operation in the Black Hills that has not impacted water quality in a significant manner in the entire history of mining in the Black Hills. So we have an incredibly short time window. The the comment period closes on Wednesday, so we're asking you to please submit a comment in hopes that a full EIS, a full environmental impact statement, would be conducted by the Forest Service instead of the shorter process that they are currently engaged in. Thank you for your time. We appreciate your concern.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jerry Munson. I live on Arrow Street here in Rapid City. I can't possibly cover all the dangers of gold exploration and mining in 3 minutes, so please allow me to share just a few concerns and questions, if I may. First, only someone uninformed on the subject would believe that exploration won't lead to full-scale mining. Second, by nature, and by this Minnesota company's own admission in their application, exploration means drilling multiple deep holes through all kinds of rock and likely through multiple underground aquifers. Third, The City of Rapid City and Ellsworth Air Force Base rely on our expensive wells and Cleghorn Gallery treatment plant to bring some of the most naturally pure water in the world to our homes and businesses from our precious resource known as the Madison Aquifer. Let's be clear, if the Madison is ruined, you can bet that Rapid Creek and Pactola will also be in big trouble. Fourth, what should we expect when a foreign company mines for gold in our Black Hills? The best example would have to be the disaster at Gilt Edge Mine. It's a Superfund site, which means it's one of the worst in the nation for hazardous waste flowing into nearby creeks. The owners conveniently went bankrupt and stuck all of us with the mess, the ongoing costs, and the permanent problems. I have no doubt that you have been lobbied by so-called experts from industry and academia telling you that mining's better now, and they have it all figured out. And like Honest John's used cars, they could care less if your engine falls out as long as your check clears the bank. The potential financial benefit to a privileged few is completely outweighed by the fact that bonds for cleanup and royalties paid to our state and country are both pathetically inadequate. My questions are, when disaster strikes, what are the costs to tourism, to economic development, to Ellsworth expansion and the B-21, to elevate Rapid City's goals, to our citizens' health, to our new Civic Center arena, to our new schools, if approved, and to our local and regional economy? Finally, with their water situation, what kind of business attraction results do you suppose Flint, Michigan is experiencing? Ladies and gentlemen, this may well be one of the most consequential votes you ever take. We, your citizens, are depending on you to step up to protect our water, our health, and our livelihoods. Please vote yes, and hand deliver this resolution to the Forest Service by close of business on February 5th. I want to personally thank you for your service to our great community.
And now the gentleman from Batesland, correct?
Right.
State your name, sir.
1 second. I won't start my time yet. I want you to take a look at this.
Your name, please.
Yeah. My name is Dennis Yellow Thunder. I come from the Oglala Sioux tribe. I also sit on the Black Hills National Forestry Advisory Board. And I'll be going on record as one of the board members that is opposed to this proposed exploratory gold drilling. But before I start, Mayor Allender, I'd like to commend you on your recent maneuvers and your recent ideology of improving the relationship between the tribes and the city. Really appreciate very much what you have done to create more unity in the city. First of all, let me remind you about the sacredness of these Black Hills. I'm here in support of this resolution, and I hope you are too. Remember what happened the last time gold was discovered. It was the end of our way of life, our hunting, our fishing, the harvesting of the wildlife in the Black Hills. This time, should this proposed drilling, exploratory activity go on, it will be the end of your way of life, because you will not have any water, because of the processes that exist in this drilling. This time it will be the end of your gold. Your gold is the tourism that exists out there. It will be the end of your way of life when it dries up, because no one wants to fish or swim or kayak or hunt in these hills because of the contamination that will occur. The hardest will be the tourism. You draw a lot of tourism dollars from these Black Hills. So remember, if it's contaminated with the tailings and the refuse left over from the drilling and the boreholes that are going to have to be capped and sealed, that will be the end of your way of life, as it was a destruction for ours. So think really hard about that and vote in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that's the end of our 10-minute time
I'll just be really quick. Can I give you some documents and a letter?
You could drop documents over here with the,
I'm Nancy Hilding. I sent you a letter, and I'm giving you the documents that I
Okay.
gave you as a link.
thank you. Okay, and that concludes the public comment period. And so we'll close public comment, and then we'll start back on the agenda with item 36 under ordinances. First reading of Ordinance 6387 regarding supplemental appropriation number 1 for 2020. Motion to approve by Lewis, second by Drury. All in favor of that motion say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 37 under Public Works. Appeal by Fisk Land Surveying and Consulting Engineers of an exception request, denial to waive, defer the requirement to pave proposed subdivision streets until a road district is created and funds accumulated. Lisa Modrick.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the deferral of improvements with the road district, and if I could get a second, retain the floor.
Second by Chad Lewis, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think if we've had an opportunity to look at this since it came to committee, and a lot of discussion in some of the papers that we've had before us, and it shows how rural this area is. I hope you drove out there and took a look at it. People with 5-acre lots that will be buying this area, they want rural. If they wanted city, they would infill. If they want rural, they will outfill. We have a developer who is hopeful, if we pass this forward and allow that to happen, to actually give the buying people of our community, or those that are coming in, because we know we've got growth coming, give them a piece of land. Not just a 6,500 square foot in town, but actually give them the 5 acres. When you live outside of town, you choose to do so, and you do want to have those non-service areas. You don't want the street lights, and you don't mind the gravel roads, because the gravel roads work absolutely well when you're in rural territory. And it will be a long time, certainly could be many lifetimes, before we would see Rapid City grow to this section and become part of our Rapid City borders. We need to also look at how it can encourage other developers who want to build spaces and places for people who want this kind of housing and farming and chickens and the things that you can have when you're outside of the city limit. It's just a way of life, and we should allow that and not government it down, because we have a criteria manual that it's got so little flex to take in every situation, and puts it hard on us to make the decision that we have to follow one book and one book only when these developments have and are providing many opportunities. Do we want somebody that wants to spend their time and their money and release this beautiful piece of land to not do anything with it at all? How does that help Rapid City, and how does it help those that are looking for this type of lifestyle? We should allow it to be provided. The road district is the option. They're willing to do the road district. It doesn't hurt us. If anything, it helps us to move other properties forward. And I'm asking for support of this council to let the outside be the outside borders, and to crystal ball it that this is going to cost us tomorrow is not fair to today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may call Janelle Fink to the podium, please.
Okay. Time's up. Next.
Did we suspend the rules on this one, too?
Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you,
Lawrence.
Mayor. Janelle, last time I got to speak to you about this issue was coming up with something in writing. Were you able to accommodate me on that?
What I anticipate as a condition of a final plat approval is that a road district be created or established as part of the final plat process. I think we actually need to be able to create the roads by platting in order to form the road district, so I think they would go hand in hand. They would go together. And I think we would work out the logistics of that with engineering and public works as to how those agreements would come together at the end.
In that platting process, did you put forward anything about timelines, some kind of guidance that you were going to put together for this road district?
We haven't discussed the particulars of the road district at this time. It's a phased development, so the first phase would hopefully come online fairly soon. But in terms of how everything would come together, we're still trying to resolve the pavement issue before we iron out the details of the road district itself.
And then I sent you the comments from the city attorney's office. Can you restate those comments for us, please?
I don't want to put words in Joel's mouth, but I think essentially Wade was saying that the term waive was inappropriate. We had requested, or excuse me, the term defer was inappropriate. We are requesting to waive the pavement, and because of that, we want to defer the payment to the road district once it accumulates funds. But I think for your motion tonight, waive is the appropriate word rather than defer.
Thank you. Janelle, just to give you a heads up, and Mr. Gould, is that without some kind of time lane, because this is going to turn into a legacy issue for us. In other words, we're going to kick the can down the road. And that's what I'm uncomfortable with. So if I can have some assurances that this will actually take place, something will actually take place in developing this road district, I could be a lot more comfortable about this. But right now, the way this is being proposed, I'm not going to be able to support this unless you can give me something that says when this is, how this is going to happen, and all of those procedures that are going to take place.
Like I said, it would be my expectation that during our next step, which would be the design engineering plans, that there would be a stipulation associated with that approval that a road district would be created at the time that the final plat was approved, or concurrently as it were. That's what my expectation is.
Thank you. I'm probably on the losing side of this anyway, so I'm just not comfortable with where we're going in this and how this takes place. So I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darla Drew.
Oh, Janelle, I have a couple questions for you, if I could, Mayor. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess when we're thinking about the legacy, like Councilman Nordstrom was talking about, do you see at any point in the future where this would cost the Rapid City taxpayers to do these roads?
I actually don't see this as an area that would be annexed for quite some time. There are significant amounts of rural, already developed property between the Rapid City city limits and between this property. And for up until it would be annexed into the city and other services provided, water and sewer extended and such, this would be no burden to the city of Rapid City whatsoever. All of the burden falls on the actual landowners themselves.
So when you create the road district, that gives you the burden of this?
Yes. The owners become members of the road district, and then they levy or assess road fees that are collected each year to address the ongoing maintenance and the pavement of the roads.
Okay, and the roads as they're designed now follow the city codes for width and things like that?
Yes, essentially it would be a rural road section. There's a clause where we've received approval to do ditch sections instead of standard curb and gutter because these are 5-acre lots.
So I guess my next question was about the ditching. Is it natural ditching? Is that what you're doing again by the roads?
We create ditches to address and handle the storm water and that type of thing, because there's no storm sewer available there either.
And I've always been a proponent of natural ditching. I would like to see it used more because it is the best filter we have is the natural filters. I know it's not practical in town, but I think for these rural districts, it's really smart. So I yield with that. Thank you.
Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. May I ask Public Works a couple questions, please?
Please.
Good evening, Mr. Tech. Could you tell me, on here it says, Public Works staff recommendation is to deny, and then in the bold letters it says recommendation from Public Works Committee is to approve deferral of improvements. What's the difference?
I'm sorry, I missed that very last comment you made.
Well, when you read these, there's one that says Public Works staff and one Public Works Committee, and it looks like they're recommending two different things.
Correct. Staff always makes a recommendation when these appeals are brought to you. Public Works staff evaluated this appeal, and staff's recommendation is for the City Council to deny. The text that you see in bold is the recommendation that came from the Public Works Committee. That's the action that the committee took last Tuesday on this item.
Yeah, okay. So can you tell me why staff recommended to deny this? And I am not familiar with road districts as to how those, if the funds are collected, who's responsible for collecting them and paying them back out? Is that all go with the owner?
The creation of the road district is another governmental entity. It's really common in Pennington County for subdivisions, people that have public roadways to do. At last count, I believe there's probably over 70 road districts in Pennington County. It's a way for them to take the tax that would normally be assessed to them as the unorganized road tax in Pennington County and utilize those funds on their own roads because the county will not accept them. So in effect, they're creating their own highway department by levying taxes for their maintenance and possibly paving of the road. This discussion we're having today is about the creation of the road district is no guarantee whatsoever that they'll ever decide to pave these roads. I just want to make that clear.
Okay, so they could collect the taxes in perpetuity and it would always be a gravel road, even if it came.
Once they create the road district, it's all up to them what they want to do with it. They can decide to not levy any taxes, not do any improvements on their roadways. They could certainly levy taxes high enough to pay for a bond to pave the roads if they so choose, but just the creation of the road district for what we're talking about tonight is no guarantee that they'll ever pave the road.
So even if they have a road district, it could just still be left a trail?
Correct.
And nothing would ever be done. And then do we have any control over that?
We do not.
Once it becomes a road district?
Once it becomes a road district, the county, the city, nobody has control except for the road district for those roads.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that information.
Bill Evans.
The reason I was the one who voted against this on the committee the other day is, again, there's absolutely no contractual obligation to follow through on the promise that something might happen. Numerous times I voted against forcing landowners to put sidewalks in where they go to nowhere, and so I believe in being practical. In this case, I believe there's a reason why the city has been given the rights, I think by the state, to have a 3-mile platting, to impose their platting rules upon that 3-mile limit. Is that correct, I believe? And the reason that's given us that, we've been given that right, is so we stop these things from happening where people said, well, you know, 20 years ago it wasn't necessary, and 15 years ago it wasn't necessary, and 5 years ago it wasn't necessary because we were never going to get that far. Well, all of those sidewalks we keep deferring up on Deadwood Avenue and now forcing people to come in is exactly like this issue. And as far as I'm concerned, at some point you've got to trust the city engineers and you've got to trust the ordinance if you've adopted and say, in this case, we have to start imposing this. And so I will not support any kind of deferral until we get some commitment in writing that actually people are going to follow through on what they've promised. And if we need to rewrite our city, design criteria, then let's do that. But, we might do it in the future, there's no reason. To me, do it now. $11,000 per unit in 5 years, well, 18. When that kid from Pinedale in kindergarten who's sitting in this seat, it might be $200,000 put in that bit of pavement, and that may be what happens. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to vote not to approve the deferral. Thank you.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gould, could you come to the podium real quick? You can state your name, please.
Mike Gould, 1850 Skyline Ranch Road.
Thanks, sir. So what is the cost per lot approximately to add
Asphalt costs approximately $35,000 per 5-acre lot.
Per 5-acre lot, okay.
It's 23 lots.
So what is your price point you're looking at hitting right now?
About $750,000.
Okay, so it's quite a pretty significant hit to the cost of the lots then?
Yeah, I mean, it's go, no-go, basically, for the project. Asphalt makes a lot of sense for a development. There's no question about that. But these are low-density lots, 5-acre rural lots. And the reason people generally buy a lot like that is they want to move to the country. So really the road district lets the individual determine whether or not they want to have an asphalt road or a gravel road. I will build the roads to city spec on a gravel basis. Whether or not it would be asphalt, it would be up to the road district.
Is the access road paved all the way to the entrance to the development? Okay. That's one of my questions. But I guess I'm trying to figure out, I represent Springwick Acres, which has paved roads, but there's no curb and gutter. And it just seems like a really good way to deal with drainage, as Darla Drew was saying. And people who live out in these areas generally don't. I agree completely that people don't want to live in places like this with paved roads. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, and I certainly don't want to stop a project from going forward. So I guess I'll be supporting your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Roberts.
I get to skip everybody because I hadn't spoke yet. Janelle, you look like you were chomping at the bit, and I think you have something you want to say. Don't take up all my time, though. I only have 10 minutes since we didn't unsuspend the rules.
I'll try to be really brief. I just wanted to point out that the comment that Councilwoman Drury made about these would just be trails, that is not the case. These would be roads that are developed as a gravel road that would meet the city development requirements except for the pavement, and they would absolutely meet the county gravel road development requirements. If we were 1 mile further outside of the city's jurisdiction, these would all be gravel roads. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. They would be built to the county specifications. So characterizing it as a trail would not be truly accurate. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. One of the things that I said on the Public Works meeting was that the first phase of this project has asphalt roads, correct?
Yes.
And, I see the developer going into the future doing that on the second phase, too, because it's good for him. Once he starts phasing this in and selling lots, they'll start blacktopping in because that gives him more value to his lots in the future. But, I'm concerned about gravel roads, too. I'm really concerned about Gladys Avenue, which is in my ward, that goes that goes into a subdivision, creates a lot of dust, creates a lot of, but we're talking about something that's 2.5 miles out of town, will probably take somewhere between 35 and 40 years before it's annexed in. If you look at our development and our development patterns in Rapid City and how things are filling in Rapid City. Now, I hope it's 10 years from now. I especially hope it's 10 years from now because as a realtor, that's very good for me. But if you look at historically, that's probably not going to happen. I think this is a good project going forward. I think this is the kind of lots that people are looking for in Rapid City. I think that people want this in Rapid City. They want rural lots. But I shouldn't say in Rapid City because it's not in Rapid City. Actually, it's in Pennington County. It's in the 3-mile limit. You know, I'm going to support this. I'm going to support it because we need it as a city. We need the development. We need, you know, people that are looking at developing outside of the box to make these lots affordable for people. And I think it's a good idea going forward. Thank you.
Lisa Modrick for minute 50.
Mine is to check my motion, Mayor. I want to make sure that if I need to amend that so that the wording is clear as was recommended, that it is waiver instead of deferral. I probably read it as on my sheet, and it sounds like waiver would be the proper way to make that statement.
Can we hear what the motion was, please?
It was to approve the deferral.
I'd like to amend that motion so that it corrects the wording as recommended with waiver. You were, I think.
Okay, Lewis was the seconder, and he's okay with that. So the motion, the correct motion then is to approve the exception, to approve the, what did you just say? Waiver. The waiver. Gotcha. Okay. Becky Drury also for minute 50.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll go back to Public Works. Is there anything happening here that those 5-acre lots, which is a nice sized lot, could be subdivided again?
It depends on the zoning in the county, and Janelle may have information of that. But before she does, if I could, 23 lots is going to create anywhere from 6 to 8 vehicles a day traveling per lot. That's 184, up to 184 cars a day using a gravel road. I just want to throw that statistic out there for you all to think about. Janelle, if you could perhaps address the zoning issue and future subdivision?
Yes. The current zoning is low-density residential within the county, which means you must have a minimum of 3 acres per lot. Each one of these lots is roughly 5 acres, so none of them have the ability to be subdivided without going through a rezoning process in the future, which I'm doubtful that the county would support based on the surrounding development in this area.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the waiver on item 37. So voting yes would approve the waiver, voting no would deny the waiver. Everyone clear? All right. So on item 37, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, roll call, please.
Lewis. Lehman. Drury. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom. Modrick. Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Motion passes 7-3.
Okay, thank you. And that takes us on to item 38. A request from KTM Design Solutions Incorporated for a variance to waive the requirement to install sidewalk per City Ordinance 12.08.060 along Sweetbriar Street, fronting the drainage lot that was recently included in the design of Avenue A. The Avenue A project is currently under construction. We'll go to Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to accept the variance of waiver on the sidewalk on Avenue, on Sweetbriar.
Second by Lewis.
Thank you, and if I can retain the floor?
Yes.
And I appreciate the seconds, thank you, because I think it needs to have some dialogue. Our developer had spoken about how that area doesn't meet up or match up at this point. If it ever does, it is not the bounded sidewalks that we're trying to do. When you take a look at the topographical around it, you don't have sidewalks meeting up with it. However, they are putting it on the side that has new development coming, so it has a great option. But this particular 3.5-foot drop also gives the natural, as Darla likes, the natural drainage too, in that more of a rural environment that there is out there. So this is another one where we have the right to variance on behalf of the needs of our developers and our community as they're purchasing these areas, and something that doesn't fit shouldn't be put in. It's a cost to everyone, and it's a pass on. It's not something that's absorbed, it's a pass on. So we want to make things affordable. We want housing to be affordable. That's the big topic that we have. It's what we have as the most important part of what our city council wants to move forward. And to do so, we also have to make the proper decisions with the compromises so that we can do that as well. So I hope that we would look at this, because if you've gone there, you'll see that this is a perfect example of a variance need. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to remain consistent on my philosophy here is that this is kicking the can down the road, and future taxpayers are going to pay for this, whereas it should be the responsibility to a developer. And I don't see this happening real quick as far as putting the sidewalk in and then tearing it out like tomorrow. It's not going to happen. It's probably going to happen down the road, but we're going to kick the can down to future taxpayers. That's my objection.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. May I direct a question to our Public Works Director and possibly our Finance Director?
Please.
Okay. Mr. Tech, during our Public Works Committee meeting on this item, please refresh my memory. You said something, we would possibly be able to get the cost of the sidewalk up front? Just kind of dovetailing off of what Mr. Nordstrom said.
Sure. During the discussion at Public Works, I made the suggestion that if the committee or the council was so inclined to waive the requirement to install this sidewalk at this time, that the developer provide the city the current value of that sidewalk, pay the city for a future installation of that sidewalk. It's adjacent to a drainage lot. It won't have a house on it. It will always be a drainage lot. In the future, the city will be responsible for installing the sidewalk at such time that sidewalks are installed in that area. Mr. Boomsma said that this isn't about money, so I think there might be some willingness for the developer to participate for their share of what this sidewalk costs in present day dollars that we can put in the bank and put towards installing sidewalk here in the future.
Great, thank you. And now, Ms. Sumption, is that something that we can do?
Yes, typically when we receive money like this, we put it in what we call the license and trust fund, so it sits in there until the project happens, and then we put it into the fund that ultimately will pay for it. So it's possible.
To me, that would be a good compromise, and then we're not putting the burden on the taxpayers. I would like to make an amended motion on that to reflect such. If I can get a second, please.
Second
Great.
by Drury.
Thank you.
So if you could restate the motion to approve the exception on the condition that the developer pays to the city license and trust fund the amount of the value of that sidewalk in today's dollars. Did I get that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, go to John Roberts now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Boomsma, do you mind if I ask you a question? Thank you very much. The sidewalk along that drainage there, at any time is that road going to possibly change in the future? Is there anything that's going to happen there, that sidewalk? Give us a little bit of overview on that sidewalk.
So speculation, but I mean that area has been developed for 30 years, 40 years, Rapid Valley area. People moved out there for the same reason that they're going to buy the 5-acre lot south of town here. They move out there because maybe they have a little less restrictions because they live in the county, not in the city. Maybe they move out there because they have a ditch instead of a curb gutter and pavement. They all live out there for a reason. And just because today they want to live there doesn't mean that in the future we have to pave it or we have to have sidewalk or we got to have curb and gutter. I mean, things don't have to change. It seems like the council has this mentality that eventually everything's going to be concreted and wall-to-wall pavement. We don't have to change certain developments, ever. So this is a county project when it was put in. It still is in the county. I would not anticipate that it change anytime in the near future. It's fully developed. There's not a single vacant lot along Sweetbriar to be developed. They're all existing homes that have been there, like I said, for 30 or 40 years. I will point out that we were doing a huge misjustice to our kids that go to school out there. There's not a connector from DeGeese to Sweetbriar from the school other than Twilight, which is 3/4 of a mile down to the south. And we didn't even realize that until we were doing construction, and the amount of kid traffic that travel through that field. Those kids now have a paved street to get home. So this piece of sidewalk will not be used. If there was a pedestrian counter out there, if we have that, I would challenge the city to put it on this piece of sidewalk, whether it goes in or not. It will not be used. It goes nowhere. It will be virtually, not impossible, but it's going to be harder to walk on the sidewalk than it is the road. So again, it just does not make sense to put this sidewalk in.
And, you know, looking at it, I totally agree with you, and I could support waiving this. You know, one of the things about this is, like you said, it's not going to connect on Sweetbriar. Even if we do annex that in the future, we're not going to go in and call in every single sidewalk in Rapid Valley because none of them have any. So how are we going to do this? Possibly in the future we may come in on a CIP project, but if we do, we will tear it all out because we'll be replacing the ditches with stormwater. And so kicking the can down the road, I disagree with. I disagree with that 100%, because if it ever does change out there, it's going to be a CIP project anyway. We're going to take what we have, we're going to tear it out, and we're going to redo it. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Dave. I have a little time left. Go ahead.
So just a quick analogy. We have 100 and some feet of sidewalk at 4 foot wide. Quick math is 2,000 square feet. We're roughly between that $5 a square foot, okay, is what it's going to cost. In the future, whatever that's going to be, 20 years, 30 years, maybe if we have sidewalk out there, it's probably going to cost more than that money I put into this fund to tear it out than you're going to have in there at that time.
Thank you very much.
Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. Either Dane or Public Works can answer this. This project is already under construction, correct?
That's correct.
So they've pulled all their permits and agreed to everything, and now we're in the middle of they're in the middle of construction, and they are coming in for a variance.
That's correct.
Beans, you said my
I
name. Can I
really like the idea that Councilman Armstrong came up with. Is it seems like a equitable thing. We're already under construction. You already probably had those funds set aside because you'd pulled the permits. So the money should be there. And I guess that to me sounds like a reasonable compromise. So thank you. I yield.
Lisa Modrick for 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
I need to ask you, Mayor, so we have suspended rules, so that's why, do we have a substitute motion on my motion because we suspended the rules?
The suspended, the rule suspension was for the item 30.
So then
public
when
comment.
Councilwoman spoke and then made a motion, does that still put us in order? On this, yeah, when she spoke and then made a substitute motion, are we still in order on our substitute motion?
Yes.
So if we're still in order on that substitute motion, I want to be able to be clearer than what we're asking on the substitute motion. If we're saying put the money in the bank, why wouldn't he put it in the ground? He's already telling us going in the ground isn't the right thing to do. It's a sidewalk to nowhere without a potential, without a possibility. We've already heard the words drainage. There's your stopgap there. We've already heard that a city inspector is saying, why would we even put one here? If you haven't been on site, you don't understand it. If you have been on site, you do understand why a variance is clear. Not putting it in the bank on this one. At some point, if there's infrastructure that goes in, everything gets changed anyway, all of it. It will be brought up to whatever the new codes are. Today we're talking about existing codes, putting it in the bank doesn't mean that it's going to be the same code in 30 years from now or whenever something happens magically that changes that drainage to be able to put a house on it so that it's a connecting area. Perhaps the other side may have an opportunity, but this side isn't the right place. So the first motion is the fair motion to the developer and also to the residents who will have to be forwarded those costs, or the affordable side of being out in the country, which is where they want to be. And I don't know why we think that people don't want to be in the country. I think we're going to have chickens brought up to us again soon. People want to live in country type of settings. It's important that we allow places like that that fit and exist. The traffic he was talking about that's blocks away, that's not crossing Sweetbriar. That's not going anywhere. You've got to listen to what he says. It's not that they're going to go into a nowhere zone and then come back out again, and you need a child counter to find out how many don't go there. It's evident that they're not going to. So the first motion should be the strongest of the two because it allows the developer to continue forward with this project at affordable housing, which is what we're supporting. Thank you.
And Laura Armstrong, 3 minutes.
At the risk of over-talking on this issue, the motion on the floor is to allow the variance, but they would have to put the money aside currently. Now, this talk about putting in the sidewalk and taking it out, if I may direct a question to our Public Works, can you please clarify? We're not going to go ahead and put a sidewalk in. We would hold the money, we would potentially hold the money to do that. No one else is going to put that. This should not hold up his project whatsoever.
That's correct. That was the suggestion that I made at Public Works Committee, is to not install the sidewalk, put the money in the bank, so when Sweetbriar is reconstructed, that sidewalk can be built.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much. I yield.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I'm guessing for my own clarification, because I think we've talked in the circle here. So if the second motion is to just, they want to, I guess I don't see the difference between making them install the sidewalk and making them put money in the bank to install the sidewalk later. Am I missing something there? I mean, I guess if you're going to give us, whatever, $50,000 to install it and then not install it, or pay $50,000 and install it, there doesn't seem to be any change there other than we don't have a sidewalk. Am I correct in that thinking? Making sure that I'm on the same page with everybody. So I guess if just point of order, Mr. Mayor, if we vote no on this motion, does that refer back to the regular motion, first motion? Just making sure. This motion is defeated.
I would think if you vote no on the substitute motion, would go back to the original motion of
just
deny
to make
or
sure. Okay.
Approve.
Just want to clarify that. Thank you.
And back to Becky Drury.
So I think what the motion does is it puts the burden of the person that drew the permit and it's doing the construction. It's part of their construction plan. They drew the permit. They started building. And what the motion does is it alleviates the burden on the taxpayers down the road. Or it doesn't alleviate it, but it makes it smaller. So when these variances come in, then that the developer doesn't have to pay it, but if the developer doesn't pay it, we get to pay it, all the rest of us, when something happens. So what the motion does is help reduce some of the burden on the taxpayers when we allow variances. That's my understanding. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to approve the exception and collect the cost of the sidewalk from the developer on that condition. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Roll call, please.
Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman. Drury. Evans. Drew. Nordstrom. Modrick. Motion passes 6-4.
Okay, thank you. All right, now on to item 39. This is to approve the request from Lilius Jarding for the City Council to approve a draft resolution expressing opposition to gold exploration in the Rapid Creek watershed. Open it up for a motion or debate. Darla Drew.
Move to approve. I'd like a second if I could hold the floor.
Second by Armstrong. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have some questions for the School of Mines mining professor. I believe he's out there, or there were two. Bricky, I think she left, but wasn't it you, sir? Okay, she's right there. Whoever would like to answer some questions would be great.
When you folks respond to the question, please state your name first.
All right, so when I was getting emails from some of you, there was a lot of indication that you felt you were disrespected at the School of Mines, and that was not the intention of this resolution whatsoever. However, I do have a couple of questions for you. If gold is discovered and a mining concern is brought in, is cyanide one of the things they use in gold mining?
Cyanide is used in some processes of gold recovery. It is not used in every process. It would be my speculation, I'm sorry, I meant to say that my name is Mark Bowen, and it would be my speculation that because of the type of the ore that would be discovered or present as a sulfide ore, it probably would not use cyanide. Cyanide is a trigger word.
It certainly is.
Can I mention that Andrea Bricky, cyanide is actually used in many different industry processes, not just the mining industry. It's used in agriculture.
But here we're
it's used
talking
in
about
plastic.
mining.
I understand, but just it's used all over and it's used safely.
Okay. I would like to say that Nelson Baker from the Mineral Mountain Reserve got a hold of me, and he said, never has it been recorded that there was a cyanide spill at Wharf in the last 20 years. Now, I don't like hearing that. If there was no cyanide spill in the last 20 years, does that mean there was one previous to that? This is what this guy wrote, and he's one of the experts that got a hold of me. And so I didn't like reading that particular thing. So tell me again how cyanide is not going to get into our watersheds if we get some kind of gold discovered. Tell me, and allay my fears, allay the fears of this room, because we're scared.
My name's Mark. I have worked in an environment where cyanide was used. I've worked in a cyanide heap leach environment. The concentrations are so low, I can tell you simply, it just doesn't taste very good. I've got it sprayed in my face, I've had it in my mouth, and it is only in those concentrations, it was only toxic perhaps in volumes of 4 gallons. Well, I didn't drink 4 gallons of it. I got it in my mouth and I spit it out. Cyanide naturally breaks down in the environment. It breaks down very quickly. It breaks down to the components of basically water and carbon. Sunlight breaks it down. The danger of cyanide is when the pH changes in the solution and it off-gasses hydrogen cyanide gas.
Okay, well, Mark, how long have you been in the Black Hills?
3 years.
Okay. I've been here my whole life. And we've seen the results of mining. You know, we've seen it. We saw Whitewood Creek. I grew up here. I saw Whitewood Creek when it was poisoned by lead and cyanide from Homestake. You assure me that these mining methods have changed. You can feel in this room that we have a little trepidation about that because we've seen the results.
I think that's one of the reasons why we're here is it's an education, and there's a resource at the School of Mines that I would hope and suggest that you take advantage of, and we would be glad to.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I just want to say one last thing here. I understand that the School of Mines was offended by us looking at this resolution. And you had 2,900 students last year. In 2017, you had 11 graduates of the mining program. This is not a big part of your program. In my estimation, 11 graduates out of 2,900. I got these figures from School of Mines. Okay, so no disrespect to you, but this doesn't look like a big part of your program. So I think that we can look at this. Thank you for your time and your answers, and my time is up.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If you two folks would remain at the podium for me, please. You mentioned something about this drilling taking place, and how deep are the drilling is expected to take place?
The proposal in front of the Forest Service contemplates 42 holes.
Yes.
And upwards of 6,000 feet.
Yes, thank you. And the next question I have for you is, you stated this is going into an area with sulfur in it, correct?
I said was speculating on the type of ore that would likely be found. I don't know that, but cyanide is only used, is typically used in oxide-type deposits. 6,000-foot holes are generally outside of the oxide zone, and they would be in the sulfide zone. That doesn't mean that there's sulfur. It is a mineral characteristic.
My greatest concern is when you start mixing water and sulfur, we get sulfuric acid, and that's my major concern. And then the other issue that I have is the trust factor. Because of mining industry and what they've accomplished or not accomplished here within the Black Hills. And I think that's the biggest concern that the folks that I'm hearing from is being able to trust what we've got coming forward as being presented to us in this. And then the credibility of this mining or even the potential of the drilling starting to take place. So the trust, credibility, and then starting mixing the various minerals that we have in our Black Hills and coming up with the final ingredient, if you will. That raises some concerns for me. And I'd be happy to meet with you folks at another time to get a clarification, and so I'm open-minded about this yet, but my greatest concern is this is in the watershed, is the drilling goes down into great depths, goes into and touches on our aquifers, and the other one is that it only takes one mistake. Only one mistake. I'm not an electrician, but I know what happens when an electrician makes a mistake to happen to our water. That's my major concern. The other part of it are various points of interest for me is the economic development and the mineral severance tax. I did not know we had any. If we do have any, it's very minimal.
It's over $6 million a year, sir.
Thank you.
Revenue that is generated to the state of South Dakota, and it entirely comes from the operations at Wharf. And the first $1 million goes to the county, goes to Lawrence County. The remainder goes into the general fund, as I understand it, in the state.
Thank you. And I'm going to be supporting this resolution because I appreciate your coming forward to help us with public awareness in this area. I think we need a great more education about what is happening in this area, and so I'd be willing to meet with you afterwards, because a little bit of background about myself, just a little bit. I will call it growing up in the wastewater field, and one of the major concerns that we had is when we had to inspect all of the gold jewelry manufacturers who were within the city. One of the constituents that we were looking at, not just the only one, but several, is cyanide. And our major concern is with how do we deal with cyanide? The breaking down, you explained that very well, how that is broken down. But I still have some concerns in those areas. So I appreciate your opportunity to give us the ability to make this more of a public awareness.
May I just address one other thing
Please.
that you said? With regard to the trust, this is a process. This is only the very beginning of a process that will probably take years. It'll be at least a year before the Forest Service issues their opinion. And then, you know, the DENR would have, if there was a mine discovered, the statistics are such that if there was going to be a gold mine, it might be, gold exploration projects might be successful 1 in 100 times. So the risk is still very low. And then there is an entire permitting process that takes several years, and the city would have numerous opportunities to comment and have influence on the permitting process. And certainly watershed and the water resources is one of those that's very important. And hey, I drink the water too.
At the risk of going beyond my time, I've worked with, I'm very familiar with, not intimately familiar with DENR. And I have some very severe concerns about that as well. So I appreciate it, any opportunity we can visit about this issue as well. Thank you. I yield.
Bill Evans.
Well, a couple comments that were made earlier. Thank you. I personally did not lobby with any of these people. I did receive several emails. The pro passed the resolution emails were probably 20 to 1 over the opposed ones. So I don't think it was really a vocal minority that was activated to have all these people show up. I think it might be a vocal majority. Now, when I ran for this particular council seat against my worthy opponent I see sitting out there right now, I talked about the vision I want for this town. And I'm going to tell you right now, the vision I have for Rapid City is not incorporating any kind of mining in our watershed area. And so I will continuously and forever be opposed to that sort of thing because I believe it is not looking toward the future, and it was what is going to enrich this community. We have limited resources in what we can offer, and to destroy those, major among them being the aesthetics of the area, is not lining up with where I want the city to be going. Now, you talk about this is not something about, it doesn't guarantee mining if they explore. Well, as far as I'm concerned, why, if it's never going to happen, and that's what I want to be taking place, then why even start it? It seems like it's a waste of time. Let's move on to something that's going to enrich everybody in the community, not a handful of people. Now, I was born in Kalispell, Montana. My dad's family ranch, still owned by my cousins, 30 miles outside of Great Falls on the side of the Highwood Mountains. I remember when my cousins sent me the tape, the video of them cheering as they imploded the Anaconda smokestack. When Anaconda closed that smelter in Great Falls, and they could see it from the ranch as it was, they tried to blow it up. And amazingly, it was still standing after this demolition crew, and they had to go back because it was so well built. They had to blow it up like 3 times before it finally went down. But what it did do is it left about 1/3 of the population of Great Falls without a job. And you can go to Butte and see the same thing. When I was a kid in school, I would go skiing at Terry Peak, and there was no big hole in the land up there. It was pristine, gorgeous landscape, very marketable from a tourism point of view. Now when I go up with my ski pass, I cannot believe what has happened over the last 25 or 30 years. It's shocking to me. So these things happen, and so I personally am going to fight any kind of mining in this watershed, and I'll do it as long as I sit here or sit out there. Thank you.
Note to the audience, we've got a lot of testimony from council members to hear here, so please refrain from clapping, cheering, throwing tomatoes and the like. We can get through this meeting in one piece. Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. For me, this is water. We're on it. Might not be the greatest tagline we ever came up with in South Dakota, but I think we are on it. The city of Rapid City, I've been asking Mr. Tech about this since the drilling started up by Rochford. He said, we are watching it. We are on it. We have our pulse on it. I've asked him a couple times about the mining up in Rochford. He gave me the same answer. We're watching it. And now we have Respect hired. And they are watching our interests in the Rapid City Creek. So I've asked about this several times. We're on it. When we all took the oath of office and were sworn in as aldermen and alderwomen, we were sworn to uphold the United States Constitution and the South Dakota State Constitution. And one of the fine people from School of Mines brought out tonight that sets out the governance of state educational institutions. It provides for a state university, an agricultural college, and a school of mines and technology, and so forth. And then if you go down, that's in Article 15, Section 3. If you go to Section 5, they require that mining and metallurgy be taught. So our world-class South Dakota School of Mine and Technology, which is east of 5th, is, guess what? Something we should be upholding as aldermen. Remember, we've sworn to uphold not only the state constitution, but the South Dakota State Constitution and the United States Constitution. Today I called Jim Goebbels and Jessica Eggers, that both work for the District Ranger Mystic Office. And I asked them, what is the weight of a resolution versus a letter? So if I write a letter, does that give me like 10 pounds, and I write a resolution, does that give me 100 pounds? And do you know what he told me? They're equal. Because the only thing they look for in those comments that they're receiving right now is substance. Not emotion, substance. It has to be something they can grab onto and use. It would be better for the council to each one of us write a letter of substance than to pass this resolution. We would get further with this EPA. I believe in protecting our Black Hills. I love the Black Hills. I spend a lot of time in the Black Hills. The beauty of the Black Hills is beyond measure. But when we're looking at submitting something that has some meat in it, let's get some substance. Let's write a letter and do that. So water, we're on it. We are also sworn to uphold the Constitution of South Dakota, which requires our School of Mines and Technology and mining classes be taught. And I also believe that we could have more of an impact if we each wrote a letter. I yield.
Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I think there's very valuable points on here in all ranges, both with our educational side as well as the constitutional side, and the great comments that our council has made. I want to add, though, that when we talk about our water protectors, it's real. We need to protect our water, and we need everybody in the room to protect our water. And sometimes it takes an organization or an alliance to make sure that they're following that and making that happen. When we see the map that the doctor provided for us. You can see that it's completely around our waterways. When you think of Spearfish Falls, all of a sudden we had Spearfish Falls again when Homestake shut down. It was something that hadn't been seen in over 125 years, and poof, here comes the water. Where will the water go if this does take off? If they find a mother lode, where's our water going to go? It's going to go to the gold mine instead of to our residents and to those that are downstream that are doing our agriculture. And the tax dollars sound very attractive, but the mining goes out of our country. It's not a U.S. base, so where does the funding go from there? We're also near Peshla, our sacred grounds. We have archaeology all around our grounds, and we need to also respect what that does, which lays beside our waters as well. Tourism, recreation, economic development, and our health. That is all the now. That is what we live with today. Tourism being what is said in our state is number 2, but when we look at it here, it's number 1, and we have to protect that as well and protect the watershed. How many mining resolutions has the city already gone through? I think we went through one when coal mining came before us. So the resolution is more of a standard for the Rapid City and its community. This is where the community wants us to be, is in a resolution to support our community and to not support the mining industry. So once the mining industry has a downfall or the economic turn, guess what happens? They leave our country and they leave us without reclamation, and then we still have millions of dollars for reclamation that we have to do, or we're in courts for many, many years, and downturns happen quite often. Gold or minerals, they rise and they fall, and when they fall hard, just like when they rise, all of a sudden here we get infiltrated by outside sources outside of our country. And I think our mining institution is amazing, and I think they're doing great things to build more elements, but is this the way to go? I believe we're in the right track. I think we have to put this on resolution just like we have others. I don't think I have anybody here from legal counsel that can even tell us what our resolutions count are, but I know we have many. I've sat on the council when we've done some of those, so it's not out of our range to follow the people and their wishes to make sure that our watershed is protected, that our water rights are protected, that our water protectors are doing their job, and we're protecting our sacred grounds. Thank you.
Okay, Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think there's any argument that we want to protect our water. I guess my question is, how is a resolution like this protecting our water? And I guess I would ask if the mines professors could speak to the levels of protection that the government regulation you've talked about, Forest Service study, you've talked about Department of Energy and Natural Resources. Is there any other, or can you explain what those safeguards are? And if President Rankin wants to speak to that, I know that he was in line. I'd certainly welcome his comment on that too.
So when we have mining extraction and we crush rock and we have geotextiles that we use now to line things that do not have any penetration. It's and there's a lot of science to this. We have developed a lot of things in 20 years. It's just the same as going to the doctor or anything, and that's the point is that we are very aware of this. We are making science and engineering, this is what we do. We solve these problems so that they don't happen. We reduce the risk. Can we reduce the risk to nothing? No, we can't reduce the risk of anything to nothing. But we are all, we're citizens of the community. We want clean water. We understand the concerns. And what we want to do is educate. We want to inform of the science and technology that we do have. And let's not focus on just the history, the mining from 100 years ago or 50 years ago. We can't evaluate things like that right now. We need to look at things in the time and space in which we are applying. And so if we want to help give you that information so that you can do the appropriate due diligence. And I'd be happy to explain geotextiles, how we build these types of mining operations, and all of the permitting that goes into them. We do have to have Clean Water Act. There is surface mining and reclamation. There's lots of government regulation that oversees this. And so we're one of the most heavily regulated industries in the world. We are one of the safest now. We're no longer mining. People think mining is super dangerous. It's definitely more dangerous to be a farmer than it is to be a miner. And but as miners, we want to make sure that our environment is taken care of. We need resources. We need things. We have a society now where we all use these cell phones. We need gold for these. We need gold in lots of different things, lots of different minerals. And we have been blessed with resources in which we can have economic growth from. But we can do it responsibly. We can use science and engineering to make sure that we reduce those risks to as low as we possibly can.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I really want to commend everybody that came out tonight for this. You know, I think there isn't a person on this board that doesn't want clean water. There isn't a person that's doesn't want to wake up tomorrow and have our water contaminated, not know what to do and where to go. You know, as a business owner in Rapid City, I sure as heck don't want to have to pull up stakes and go somewhere else and start over again at my age. The thing that does really bother me about this whole thing is how we are making our decisions on emotion and not on fact. We have heard nothing until tonight from the other side. Now, saying that, I really do appreciate you coming tonight. I appreciate how many people showed up tonight. I would like to talk to somebody that's an expert on water, on hydrology. So, do we have anybody in the room? Any one of you? So we heard earlier that they're going to be drilling down into and through the Madison Aquifer. Is that true?
I honestly don't believe the Madison Aquifer is located in this area. I mean, this is in the Precambrian core of the Black Hills, so it's just the Precambrian Aquifer is where the direct drilling would take place. The Madison Aquifer is down gradient in the watershed.
And you know, this is one of my things that really is bothering me about this because it came forward so fast. We've got somebody else that's coming up to make the other opinion on the other side, but we're making decisions on the fly. We don't have, in my opinion, we don't have the knowledge that we should have to make a decision one way or another. We've heard from one side that is, I don't know if one side's telling the truth, and to be honest, I don't know if the other side's telling the truth, because I have not seen any evidence either way in front of me. You know, all that I've heard is, I've been bombarded with emails, you know, pro and con, you know, mostly from the people that are saying, if we get mining, we're going to contaminate the water. No if, and, or but. It's going to happen. You know, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Is there a chance it could happen? Absolutely. There's a chance I could get hit by a Greyhound bus the minute I walk out of this room tonight. So, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I don't think we should be making our decisions strictly from emotion. I think that if we're going to do this, we should take our time. We should have both sides bring in the evidence. We should take a good look at it. Now, I know that the people on the other side of this that want this pushed right away, you want it pushed because you're on a timeline. That's BS. Bring something forward right at the very end. Try to make us feel awful because we're not protectors of the water. We don't care if the water's contaminated. I call BS on that. Anyway, I'm done for the moment. Thank you.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you. I have got a lot of points to make in my 5 minutes. So first and foremost, I want to thank Dr. Rankin and the people from the School of Mines for showing up, speaking their part, and know that we value you and we value the programs that you offer. I think we all recognize that we all benefit from mining in one shape or form, whether it's jewelry or gems, etc. That's not what we're talking about. Regarding the drilling, I do have a question for the two of you. How will the fluids be transported from this project, potentially?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
When you're doing the mining, there's fluids that are extracted and brought in.
First, we have to narrow the problem down, and what we're talking about is an exploration project that's going to drill 42 holes. They will import their water for drilling.
And chemicals and other things, correct?
I don't think there's any chemicals involved. For the drilling project, you know, there's drilling mud, which is basically water and clay, and they extract core samples. Okay. When they're all done, then they refill the drill holes with cement, and to my understanding, Dr. McCormick here is an expert on the aquifers in the area, and she's in the mining department.
Okay.
And she can
and
speak
then
to
will that Silver City Road be utilized at all?
Listen, I don't have a dog in this hunt.
I understand. The point I'm trying to get at is I think either in 2018 or 2019, Mineral Mining's had a truck that went off the road and there was a spill. I think it was just water that was involved, but had there been chemicals in there, that would have been a disaster. So that's the point I'm trying to make. The next one I want to make is you had mentioned that there was $6 million with the wharf mine, correct?
That's $6 million approximately annually,
Perfect.
yes.
Well, Mr. Roberts is asking for facts, so I'm just trying to throw some numbers out there that were factual. So I'm trying to appease him at that point. My understanding is the Gilt Edge cleanup was $200 million. So I just want to give a little perspective of that, or approximately $200 million. If we're throwing numerical numbers out in dollars, my understanding is it would cost approximately $180 million to install a heavy metal purification system to be retrofitted to our current water system. A couple other things I'd like to mention, or actually ask, does the School of Mines offer degrees in Superfund cleanups? Because I really think our neighbors in the Northern Hills would appreciate that. And then it would go to Mrs. Drury's concern about being, taking our sworn oath to the South Dakota Constitution. The final point I want to make is I personally feel that it doesn't have to be either or, like either a resolution or a letter of substance. I think we should do both. In fact, I think we're obligated to do both. And the very last thing I will say is Rapid City is the largest stakeholder, so this resolution, I feel, is not just a piece of paper. I would think it would just send a strong signal that this project is really not welcomed or viable. So thank you. I yield.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not to make much friends. Can I make a substitute motion to defer this resolution until for 2 weeks or next council meeting to give it a chance to rephase some of the wording in it? If I can get a second, I have to explain myself.
We have a motion to postpone for 2 weeks to
change the wording.
Change the wording on the resolution. Is there a second to that motion?
No? You want to give me a second? I'm trying to explain my rationale. Okay, thank you for the second, for courtesy. My rationale behind that being, I know there's a deadline that everybody's worried about here, but I don't think the second largest city in the state, the closest population center, voice is not going to be heard, whether it's formally recorded with a hearing or not, I think it's still going to hold the same amount of weight. I mean, to say that it doesn't have a bigger voice is, I don't necessarily think is correct, but I know that what I'm getting at here is that the mayor's made some really good points, and I tend to agree with him, is that this state seems to have a complete dearth of science knowledge in politics. We don't really pay attention, and it just goes by emotion, and you can see that in Pier right now, where we're using it to marginalize people because of opinion, not science. And it's been happening on all the time, and special interests come forth on either side and start yelling the loudest, and we just follow them, and we make motions and ordinances and laws all the time, and people are, and we end up supporting them as a government. And I don't think the vast majority of the people actually support most of those ideas. And I think, when the city sits there and says that we're completely against mining, it's completely hypocritical. The city would not even exist without mining. This city exists because of mining. Now, that being said, who the heck doesn't want clean water? But we have to respect the science, too. There's valid points out there that say this is not as dangerous as it once was. I think about this a lot because I drive this Terry Peak all the time with my children, and I used to go up all the time when I was a kid. We used to go up 385 and then go up through Lead and look at that water that was coming down that creek that was sitting right next to it, and it was so dirty. It was ridiculous. And so there's a lot of, I guess my concerns are, I completely see where people are coming from when they think of this. And I also realize that part of the hang-up with the Sanford lab was we had to get, that the mining company wanted to be off the hook for any potential long-term damage that could come from the mining that was up there, as I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a big concern about releasing the liability going forward. Does that sound right to everybody? Everybody remember that? And there was a lot of that going on. So I guess the biggest point is I don't want to be led around every time someone brings forth a concern. It's a valid concern, but we have to be careful as a city that we don't just jump on everything that comes to the door. So I think if we could come up with a resolution that says, look, we as a city are very concerned about this. We're going to keep our eye on it, and we will definitely be opposed to any mass drill or mining or any particular thing that comes forward. I think that would be a good idea, because I think we did it with the uranium mine that just went a couple of years back. We had a resolution against the uranium mine that was proposed down in Hot Springs, which really wasn't anywhere near us, and that water source didn't even come close to touching us. But we made that resolution. It didn't really affect anything. It was a good thing to reach out to people, but I think we got to really be careful. And I've just seen a lot of things happen in government lately where I think we have to really be careful who we listen to and how it comes forward. And that's not discounting people. I just don't want to see the kind of harm that can be done when the government reacts like a teenager dumped on prom night. I think we need to make sure that we think about what we're doing and we measure our responses. And I really believe that. And it's not anything more than that. I think we need to, I'm totally for supporting clean water, and I will support a resolution that's not quite as dire as this one. Cyanide, a couple of people up here smoke cigarettes, and they get cyanide every time they do that. And they're still sticking around. So it just depends on how it's ingested. So anyway, that's my point. I don't know if I really made my point, but I think that's, I just don't want to be too overreacted to everything that's brought forth. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to postpone this item 2 weeks to let the council deliberate the wording of the resolution. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Need to have a roll call, please.
Evans. Drew. Nordstrom. Modrick. Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Lewis. Lehman. Drury. Motion fails 4-6.
Okay, back to the original motion to approve the resolution.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, we have John Roberts for about a minute or so.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to make a substitute motion to table this.
Okay, we have a motion to table by Roberts, second by Lehman. There's no debate on a tabling motion, so we go right to a vote. All in favor of the tabling motion, say aye. Aye. Let's skip the no's. Go to a roll call, please.
Armstrong.
to table? She votes no. Mic's on, please.
Lewis,
No.
Lehman,
Aye.
Drury, Evans, Drew,
No.
Nordstrom,
No.
Modrick,
No.
Roberts, Stroman. Motion fails 4-6.
Okay, back to the original motion to approve the resolution. We'll have a roll call vote on this. Aye approves the resolution and a no disapproves.
Drew, Nordstrom,
Aye.
Modrick, Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman,
No.
Drury, Evans. Motion passes 6-4.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on the agenda. Public hearing items 40 through 48. We don't have any speaker requests on these items, so we'll go straight to consent items 43 through 48. Is there a motion from the council? Motion to approve by Lehman and a second by Drury to approve the consent public hearing items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 49, the bill list. Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $6,399,776.75.
Motion to approve by Nordstrom and a second by Modrick for item 49. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Anyone object to adjourning?
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.